Let's start with episode 1, automaker fallout. Yes, whether, car manufacturers, truck manufacturers, SUV manufacturers, all the brands are going through what we could call a fallout or a collapse. Major changes coming for these automakers. It's a scary place, and you might be thinking, boy, if all these titles that I'm seeing from journalists are that there's this collapse, there's this crash, maybe it's a horrible time to buy. I'd say no, it's going to slowly force everyone. Some people are already on the dropped price train, and it's going to slowly force every manufacturer. You can see all the way from Toyota that has very low inventory, but some models you should still get a great deal on because they have very high inventory on from Toyota and Honda. So even though Toyota, Honda, Kia, Lexus, BMW, Subaru, Cadillac, and Volkswagen, as well as Hyundai, all have very low inventory, Toyota being the worst, you can still get a great deal on some of their models, and those are the models that have a lot of inventory at dealers. Toyota RAV4 has a lot of, in general, overall, a ton of inventory at dealers. And if there's a lot of inventory, that means they're paying a lot of interest. These days, dealers are paying roughly 8% interest on the vehicles they have on the lot. So they're motivated to get that metal moving. So's the manufacturer, because the manufacturer, of course, just sells to the dealers. But then the dealers are paying interest and complaining and can start saying, don't send us more vehicles, or slow down, cut what you're sending us in half. Dealers have that control because they are separate businesses. Co-op CRC, thank you very much for enjoying the show, as well as the politics. We'll talk about that because I got a warning, which is 1 step towards a strike, 3 strikes, and my channel gets completely deleted because I covered news on what the Florida Surgeon General talked about. So that was my live. If you check out the live about Ford's done doing boring, it was at the 1:42 mark. I just played a clip from Fox News, commented that no matter who is correct in this, because there's no proof that either side, whether it's the FDA or the Florida Surgeon General, no matter who's correct about this, what's important is that we can have discussions, dialogue, share the data that both sides have to come to the best conclusions as possible, that we still have free speech. And my free speech got cut by being threatened to take away my business. So thank you very much, YouTube. I need to be a little more cautious, it would be up here, because apparently saying that free speech is important and not taking a side of an argument can be deemed as misinformation. So that's the 1:42 mark when I was playing a clip from Fox News. But this shouldn't get me banned or a strike, because the next time they talk to me, it's going to be a strike. This is automobile news, so good and safe, real good and safe information. So we do have automaker fallout. So let's quickly cover all the good, the bad, and the ugly. Dealer inventory is high, folks, and I'm going to show that to you in a photo I've got here of, well, my local dealer, and this is the case pretty much at all dealers. You can see traditionally we had this yard filled, and this is a good example of what's going on in almost every dealer. Not Toyota, not Honda, but we'll look at which dealers have the most inventory, and you should be getting a great deal from them. You can see this whole front line is trucks, the roadside line, that's all trucks. Well, normally we'd have a few trucks on the other side of the dealership. We're now renting 2 other yards. So yes, Ford knows we've got more truck inventory than possibly we have ever had. Ford's at about a little over 100 days of inventory. And for the models we have a lot of inventory on, great. For the buyers, it means Ford's getting all sorts of pressure from the dealers. Dealers are tired of paying 8% on what's now $50,000 to $100,000 machines. Imagine if you have a $100,000 machine for 1 year and you're paying 8% interest on that, and it's compound interest. Every month it gets tallied up. What does this mean, folks? It means Ford is getting pressure from dealers to do something about this inventory crisis. So prices are collapsing. I remember a year ago, at this time last year, Ford F-150 on average was about $7,000 more expensive. So Ford's dropped the prices on those F-150s, and you can probably get the dealer to work out a little something extra for you, a few presents, because as dealers, we definitely want to get rid of some models. And I say some models because, well, an XLT Sport 6.5 foot box won't be produced from Ford until Job 2. Tremors aren't going to start being produced until Job 2, so that means halfway through the 2024 year production. So there are definite models that dealers are a little more in a hurry to sell than other models. So a straight XLT, for example, or a Lariat, maybe a little more, costs more interest. A Platinum costs more interest. So those are the type of questions you can ask the dealer. You know, what models are you in a hurry to get rid of? More so than other models, what models are you willing to make a deal on? But right now, from what I've seen for the last couple months, Ford is either offering 0 or close to 0% interest and, you know, no rebate, or higher interest but a huge rebate. And that's what you're going to see across the models. Now Nissan, I've got a Nissan dealer near me, and they've got more inventory than they've ever had. They've had to buy out an extra 60 spots. So there's a next door neighbor's a gym. They bought the back parking lot of the gym, filled it with an extra 60 vehicles that in the last 30-40 years of this dealer existing, they never had to have vehicles off-site. They bought an extra parking lot. GM, they are booked. So let's look at the companies that are affected most here, folks. The ones that you can likely get the best deals at, and then we'll go model by model. So here you can see Jaguar, worst inventory. They're above 130 days of inventory. That means if they had no new vehicles come in, it would take them roughly 130 days on average to sell what's on the dealer lots. Now, if they had a strike, you know, for example, if they had a strike for 130 days, take 130 days so that there wouldn't be any, or, you know, another pandemic or something that completely stops production, it would take them 130 days to sell what they have, meaning it's taking them longer to sell vehicles. You know, the takeaways from this is high days in inventory means it's taking longer to sell those vehicles, and they're paying more interest on it. So a Jaguar dealer that tries to play hardball with you, saying, oh, you know, our vehicles are, you know, we have very low inventory and we're in no hurry to sell these vehicles, so you're being sold some ice. You know, what they're telling you isn't true. Maybe for 1 or 2 Jaguar models, but in general, Jaguar needs to move metal. Those dealers are paying a ton of interest. Lincoln, they need to move metal, but of course there's exceptions. The new Nautilus is a very hot item. I think possibly I think it's the most technologically advanced. At least when you're inside that vehicle, it feels like it's 5 years ahead of almost anything else on the market. It's an incredible interior and it's a beautiful exterior. You've got, so those, the new 2024 Nautiluses, yeah, people aren't going to be getting a rebate on those. Those are hot ticket items. Some dealers, because they're rare, we don't have enough, they might even try to get a little bit more out of you. So supply and demand, that's what's driving this, folks. So yes, there is an automaker or manufacturer fallout. There is a collapse in prices because inventory is high. So Infiniti, Buick, Ram, Chrysler, Dodge, Audi, Mini, Jeep, Ford, all companies that you should see rebates on the prices of their vehicles. Ford is, just currently they've gone up to just a little bit over 100 days of inventory. So it's a little different from when this chart was made, but the order is still generally pretty good here. Pretty representative. Porsche, I'm even starting to see some Porsche 911s, brand new for sale. Not a ton of them, so it's not as if they're going to give you a great deal, but they're no longer in a position to ask for an extra $20,000 or $30,000 or $50,000 over invoice. Yes, the WB makes a great point. It is amazing how many cars there are available on the market now. Now you've got Mazda around the middle and Chevrolet around the middle. So you can't expect as much of a rebate on those models as you can the ones over at this end of the chart. Now Toyota and Honda, Kia, Lexus, BMW, Subaru, Cadillac, and Volkswagen Generally, going in, don't expect a huge rebate. They've got relatively low inventory. A good amount of inventory is about 50 to 80 days worth of supply. That is, a nice, safe amount of inventory to be running. So what vehicles can you get a great deal on because of high inventory? Well, on average, let me tell you folks, on average, prices have gone down. The current price is $47,401. So that's quite a big difference. So you got $47,401 as the current price. We can see back in 2022, 2023, we had higher prices. And well, they skyrocketed, of course, when they had those factory closures, when we were all told to stay at home. We were all told we were dealing with, this horrifically deadly disease going around. So inventories went down. People were staying at home. People were bored. People bought vehicles. But new vehicles weren't being made. So that made it so that rebates disappeared. Inventories went down. Rebates disappeared. And then prices increased dramatically. Heck, you used to be able to lease in Canada. You used to be able to lease a Ford F-150 Lariat for about $750, $800 a month. And now it's $1,300 a month if you want to lease the same machine. Vehicles, an XLT 302 that was $62,000 with roughly a $7,000 rebate or 0% and about a $4,000 rebate is now up to $74,000, $75,000. And just recently, 3-4 months ago, no rebate, but now recently we're either looking at 0% or about $7,500 off. So huge difference. So the average transaction price has actually gone down from a year ago by 3.5%. That is a huge difference, folks. And there's some models, because of high inventory, the prices have changed incredibly. The two best examples on the market right now, think about the Ford F-150 Lightning, the second best example. Wait until you find out about the best example for price decrease on the market. So stay tuned here, folks. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, and share this information. But the vehicle with the second biggest price decrease is the Ford F-150 Lightning. I'm a victim of this, but if you haven't bought yet, you won't be a victim. You could be a winner. But beginning of 2023, the Ford F-150 Lightning, for example, a Lariat 511, the model with the big battery and all the equipment, was $112,000 Canadian. Then around May, June, it dropped by $10,000, but interest was up by around 8%, right around 7.99. Since June, with that $10,000 decrease, however, higher interest. I originally got 4.99 interest because, I waited. I was a day one orderer. But we've seen 7.99 interest and even 8.49 interest on the Lightning. Now, interest is down unbelievably low on the Lightning. I think just recently we can access a 3.99%, and throughout the year the price dropped by $10,000. But what about the model with the biggest rebate that I have seen? Well, at one point in early 2023, a Mach-E Ford Mustang Mach-E Premium was $82,000. So that would be the premium all-wheel drive with big battery, $82,000 and so many hundred, let's say roughly $82,500 for a Mach-E Premium big battery in Canada. Then they dropped the price by roughly $10,000 and it became a $72,200 to $73,500 vehicle, depending on options. And now, as of last week, because inventory, what happened? Ford F-150 Lightning, tons of inventory. At first, no inventory. They raised the prices, tons of inventory. They dropped the prices, more inventory. They dropped the interest rate a great deal. Well, for the Mustang Mach-E, same story is true. High price, around 82,000 Canadian, dropped it down to 72,000. Just got dropped down by another $5,000, folks. And the interest rate got cut by 3%. And the interest rate was already lower than it was earlier on in the year. So throughout the year, it's almost roughly about a 5% interest percentage interest decrease, which represents off the original price. Heck, we're talking about what, $8,000 to $10,000 of interest that has been removed from the Mustang Mach-E, plus a $10,000 rebate. Now a $5,000 rebate, and this means that you can have government rebates. It applies for government rebates. So you get a $12,000 government rebate. So a vehicle that started off the beginning of the year being roughly $1,500, $1,600 per month is now about $800 per month. That is insane. The monthly payment has been decreased. It does help, the $12,000 after tax government rebate, but that's basically a 50% decrease in monthly payment. So finally, the Mustang Mach-E is affordable, because at $1,600, it didn't make any sense. My Ford F-150 at originally roughly about $2,000 a month, and I put, $8,000 down on it just so I could have $1,636 a month. That is a huge payment. It is wild, and I thought it'd be so much popular on the show, but it looks like a lot of people, the huge majority of people, are still preferring gas or petrol-powered vehicles. We'll talk about that more in the show. But those are the worst, those are the best deals. Now, the worst deals on the market are going to be vehicles that are still have higher demand than supply. And it doesn't mean the vehicle has to be wildly popular. It just has to have more demand than supply. So if the supply is very, very low, but the demand is low, that'll still make it so that there are very few models on the market, and dealers will probably still play around with price. They certainly won't give you a good deal on it, and they might increase the price on it. So let's check out, these are the vehicles with the most nationwide inventory. This is how you spot a deal, folks. Likely you'll get offered a deal, and if they don't offer it to you, you can argue or discuss a deal. You can debate a deal out. Remember, freedom of speech and debate are incredibly important. Jailing reporters because, basically the vice president of Canada, call it a vice president, it's not, it's deputy minister, but the prime minister of Canada had their bodyguard body check a much older journalist and then charge him with assault. All part of the process of trying to censor journalists that ask the tough questions, that ask questions about, why are we going towards war? Why aren't we talking about peaceful options? What happened during COVID? It's ridiculous. I can't even believe our small community here, our small channel, got threatened to have the business completely disappear and completely destroyed and completely deleted from YouTube because I played a clip from Fox News where the Surgeon General is making certain health recommendations. And I even said, he may be right or he may be wrong. What's important is that we have freedom of speech and we can have dialogue, because through dialogue, parties can share their information with each other and we can come to better conclusions to avoid bad consequences. And of course, freedom of speech is important in order to keep people, general population, sane and satisfied. So that's why, and free press anyways was meant to be free to challenge the ruling, the current ruling parties, so that they don't have a monopoly on information. So folks, thank you so much for staying with the show. You've got the Chevrolet Silverado 1500 with the highest nationwide inventory, almost 51,000. The Ford F-150, 45,600. You should expect big deals out of this. Now, if Chevrolet Silverado 1500 isn't cutting you a deal, which I think their deal isn't quite that hot, because these days people are cross-shopping and they're telling me, well, your price is very similar to Chevrolets. And traditionally, a Ford F-150 was always a little bit more expensive, a little bit better as well. Long-term reliability, I feel that it's better from what I've seen. And also, well, they don't rust out. The panels are made of aluminum. More expensive to make, a little bit more expensive to buy traditionally. So it's not normal that we're pretty much at the same price overall as a Silverado 1500. A Nissan Rogue, you should get a great deal on those. There's a lot of them. A Ram 1500, expect a deal. And for a long time, Ram has been collecting dust at dealers, and they're still not willing to make a deal. And that's a mistake. Ram needs to drop the price on those vehicles, and dealers need to be willing to make a deal. So if they're not willing to negotiate a deal with you, if you're not seeing thousands of dollars off the price of a Ram 1500, walk away, folks. Same with all the ones above, including an F-150. If you're not getting an incredible deal, whether it's 0% or $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 off the vehicle, walk away. Dodge Charger, I'm surprised. They're a dying breed. You think people would be scooping these up? Honda CRV. So remember, Honda overall as a brand has the second lowest days in inventory. That means overall the brand, the second rarest brand to find a vehicle for. But you should still expect a deal out of the Honda CRV because they've got 19,800 of them. Chevrolet Equinox, 18,600, expect a deal. GMC Sierra 1500, 18,500, expect a deal. It's very similar to the Chevrolet 1500 anyway. So even though Chevrolet has pretty low inventory, they've got a lot of trucks. General rule of thumb, if it's a truck, rule of thumb, expect a deal. If not, walk away. You've got the Honda Civic. Good, very good vehicle. Reliability isn't quite as high as it was. Same thing for the Honda CRV. The reliability has gone down a little in the last 5 years. Honda's going down the bad road of using CVT transmissions, and it's a mistake. Overall, they're not reliable, folks. Toyota RAV4, expect a deal. Now, Toyota is the brand with the lowest inventory, even though their production is at relatively record high. 2023 was one of their best years for production in their history. And North American dealers have very few vehicles. Well, that's because they're going overseas. They're going to regions, coincidentally, that have better profit margins for them. So I'd expect prices to go up at Toyota. If inventory goes up, I'm thinking they're going to want to make the type of profit that they're making in other sectors. So, Toyota will follow that story closely. Outsider Reviews, thank you so much for joining the show, folks. Check out his channel. Great channel. We've got M. Peugeot. Thank you very much for making it into the show. Twin Force Fusion. Thank you very much, folks. Outsider Reviews, as always, thank you very much for dropping some great information for the community to go over. Now, Mazda CX-5, so check out his channel, subscribe to his channel. Mazda CX-5, relatively high inventory at 16,800. Ram 2500, you'll find a lot of those. Expect a deal. Ford Explorer, inventory recently was very low, but we got a whole bunch of them right off. However, and the deal, previously there was no rebate, high interest. Ford is giving a deal on the Ford Explorer because, from 1 month to another, you'll either probably see $3,000 or $4,000 off the vehicle or a good interest rate. Right now, the standard interest rate for automakers, they're paying roughly, let's say 7 to 8%. So anything below 7%, you could say subsidizing that better interest rate. So that's a form of a good deal. Subaru Forester, decent. Hyundai has overall low inventory, but the Tucson, they've got good inventory of that, so expect a good deal. Ford Bronco Sport, 13,400, number 19 on the list. I can tell you, I can confirm as an insider, yes, the Ford Bronco Sport, there are good deals on it. Ford's offering thousands of dollars off to make it move. Honda Accord, good vehicle. You should get a good rebate. Jeep Wrangler 4xe, maybe the dealer will play hardball, and if so, walk away. But just the Jeep Wrangler 4xe model, they've got 13,200 of those out there. Expect a deal. Toyota Camry, fantastic vehicle, very, very reliable. Expect a deal. Toyota Tundra, 13,000. Ford Mach-E, 12,800. You'll see all these channels covering how Ford is in so much trouble because of this high inventory. Well, it's actually 24th highest at 12,800. And yes, there is an incredible deal. Ford just dropped the interest rate by 3% and $5,000 in Canada. And that means now the premium big battery, or 91 kilowatt battery, gets the $12,000 government rebate. So these things are going to move fast. Yes, I've seen Mach-E's piling up, but I do strongly believe they're going to sell quick. I already have. Last week, I had 2-3 appointments for them for people who are, really watching that deal change. And I've got about already 3 or 4 appointments for next week. The dealer has about 100 Mach-E's. They're all going to sell. Ford's not stupid. They're not going to let these vehicles become, 2-3 years old sitting in dealer lots. They will make them move. The market is correcting itself. And smart manufacturers are cutting into rebates, cutting down those interest rates to move vehicles quickly. So even the Ford Bronco's on the list here at number 39 with 8,900 Ford Broncos at dealer lots. Some of those will be customer orders. So we go down, top SUVs with the most inventory: Nissan Rogue, Honda CR-V, Chevrolet Equinox, and number 4, Toyota RAV4, number 5, Mazda CX-5. Expect a good deal on all of those models. Those are your top 5 SUVs with the highest inventory. Now, top coupes with the most inventory: number 1, Dodge Charger. Number 2, Honda Civic. Number 3, Dodge Challenger. Number 4, Nissan Sentra. And number 5, the Honda Accord. So the Dodge Charger, 20,600 models. The Honda Accord, 13,319. And a close 6, Toyota Camry. Subaru Outback, little drop there in units, 11,393. The Nissan Altima, number 8 at 10,518. And number 9, Ford Mustang with 8,505. And the Hyundai Elantra with 8,300. And yes, Ford Mustang's number 9, and Ford did just recently reduce the interest rate significantly on these to get them moving, folks. So make sure you get a deal when you're looking at those vehicles. So I know that's information that's going to help you get a better deal, folks. It'll help you save thousands, help this family business not make thousands, but make a few bucks for their doing this live together. Of course, I enjoy doing these with you, but it's also great having a little money come in to pay for that Ford Bronco, which I'll be editing some videos on very recently, and the Lightning, as well as 2 old Porsche 911s that I'm tinkering around with, and a Toyota MR2 91, which is still broken, but I've ordered about $1,800 worth of parts for now. And race seats, not part of that $1,800. So help support, hit the like, share the information, and hit the bell notification and the subscribe button so you don't miss out. That's what really helps this channel. And when you let the shows run from beginning to the end. Now, folks, that covers a huge topic for our first topic. All the other topics coming up are actually quite a bit faster. So get ready for a little bit faster pace. Prices, remember, they did drop 3.5% from last year, but that's an average. Some vehicles have dropped. That's an average across all makes and models. Some vehicles have dropped by a lot more than that. So look for those models. Like the Mach-E, the monthly payment has basically dropped in half on certain Mach-E models from beginning of 2023. We're now early 2024, and I'm looking at payments that cost half as much. So now we're starting to see some incredible deals out there, folks. You just need to be looking. However, less people are looking because they've been getting burnt for the last 3 years, which is wild, because at the peak of prices, up here, peak of prices was early 2023. Tons of people were walking through the front doors at dealers. Weren't questioning and saying, hey, this seems a little expensive. My pickup truck payment has almost doubled. Maybe I should keep my pickup. But tons of people were going through the front door. Now prices have come down, and on certain models like the Mach-E or the Lightning, the monthly payments have dramatically dropped, and people aren't coming in through the front door. So that's why it pays to be informed, because just like the stock market, if you're buying stocks, down here, no one's buying, whatever stock you're looking at. Very few people are buying it. And that's when it costs the less amount of money. That's when it's a deal. And then when it gets expensive, stocks and vehicles, oddly, that's when there's all the hype. And people are still loading in on a stock right before the crash. Well, prices have crashed on average by 3.5%, and that's over 1 year. That doesn't count count inflation. So let's say inflation is at 4%, not quite, but let's round off 2023 inflation at 4%. If we have a 3.5% decrease overall on all vehicles by 3.5%, that means vehicle prices have actually dropped by 7% because they didn't go up with inflation. So I think that's important to keep in mind. Will prices go down a bit more? Yes, on 2023 models that are still available in yards for the next 1, 2, and 3 months, you will continue to see prices drop on these models. Big rants here. No, I guess M Peugeot are rants. They're 100% safe for us because we know we're not spreading misinformation. They are safe, but they get deemed, our free speech gets slapped on the hand, and we're getting cut a little. So some people will be happy. There'll be less safer rants or less rants, and others maybe not so much. So let's cover this up. Let's cover this, folks. We've talked about fallout in the auto market, the auto industry. All the manufacturers are looking at fallout. If they're smart, they've already dropped their prices. If they're a little less smart, they'll drop their prices as of next month. And if they're dumb, they won't drop their prices, and they're just going to have their inventory skyrocket. They'll have very dissatisfied dealers. The dealers are going to start saying no to new vehicles, and that's going to affect their reputation because journalists, as we know, throughout each quarter of the year, they like to report on who's selling the most, what models are selling the most, what manufacturers are selling the most. Now, here's a story that's going to talk about inventory and how it might get negatively impacted. So, episode 2, here we go, folks. Let's cover it. Fallout at Ford. This is big. So, this is going to lead to some big changes at Ford.